The penthouse of Sterling Tower in Dallas was a monument to everything I had built from nothing. Floor-to-ceiling windows stretched across the entire eastern wall, offering a panoramic view of the sprawling Texas skyline and the industrial empire I had conquered through sheer force of will and a ruthless willingness to destroy anyone who stood in my path. The Italian marble floors gleamed under the soft glow of custom-designed chandeliers that had cost more than most people's homes. The walls were adorned with original industrial automation concept art and the first working prototype of the robotic assembly system that had launched my company to global dominance. I, Julian Sterling, the self-made industrial automation billionaire who had risen from a trailer park in Arkansas to the pinnacle of American manufacturing, stood at the center of my empire, wearing a Tom Ford suit that cost more than a luxury car, and I felt nothing but contempt for the woman sitting in the corner of my office. My wife, Dr. Charlotte Vance, was reading a technical journal. She was always reading or sketching designs or analyzing system performance data or doing something mundane and academic that reminded me of where she came from. She was a junior systems engineer at Sterling Automation, the daughter of a high school physics teacher and a librarian, a woman who had grown up in a modest home in Ohio. My venture capital firm had insisted on this marriage 32 years ago as a condition of their investment. They wanted someone intellectually grounded to balance my erratic nature. I had agreed, but I had resented it every single day. She was a constant reminder that I had sold part of my soul to build my company. Charlotte was beautiful in a quiet, unassuming way. Her chestnut hair was always pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her hazel eyes were warm and intelligent. But she wore no makeup, no designer labels, no expensive jewelry. She was content to exist in the background, to be a quiet, supportive wife who never made waves. I despised her for it. She had no ambition, no drive, no desire to be anything other than an engineer. She was the anchor that was holding me back, a reminder of my compromises. I had been seeing someone else for 22 years. Penelope Ashford, a glamorous industrial influencer and socialite with millions of followers, was everything Charlotte wasn't. She was sharp, ruthless, and exquisitely beautiful. She wore designer gowns like they were pajamas and had an audience that worshipped her every move. She was also a corporate spy, a woman who had been feeding intelligence about Sterling Automation to my rivals for decades, while pretending to love me. And I had been too arrogant, too blind, too consumed by my own ego to see it. Tonight, I was going to end it, that I was going to divorce Charlotte and marry Penelope. I had already drafted the papers, that I had already transferred our joint assets into my name. Charlotte would walk away with nothing but the clothes on her back. IT was the least she deserved for being such a pathetic excuse for a wife. I walked toward her, my footsteps echoing against the marble floor. Charlotte looked up from her journal, her expression calm, serene, infuriating. "Julian, dinner will be ready in 20 minutes. I made your favorite prime rib with truffle butter." "I'm not hungry," I said coldly. "Put the journal down. We need to talk." She closed the journal obediently, as she always did. I stood over her, looking down with all the contempt I could muster. "Charlotte, this marriage has been a mistake," I said. "I never wanted to marry you. You're a burden, a liability, a constant reminder of my biggest failure. I've met someone else, someone who actually belongs in my world, and I'm filing for divorce. You have 72 hours to pack your things and leave. I've already had the lawyers prepare the papers. Sign them, and you can go quietly." Charlotte stared at me. Her expression was unreadable. No tears, no shock, just a strange, unsettling calm. "Julian," she said, her voice quiet but steady, "do you know why the venture capital firm insisted on me? Do you know why I was chosen for this marriage?" "Because you were cheap and malleable," I said dismissively. "You were a way to make the investors feel like I was grounded. You were nothing more than a prop." Charlotte nodded slowly. She reached into her bag and pulled out a simple leather-bound folder, something I had never seen before. She placed it on the coffee table in front of her. "Julian," she said, "I'm not just a junior systems engineer. I am the chief architect of every single automation system Sterling Automation has released in the past decade. Every robotic arm, every control algorithm, every safety protocol, they came from my sketchbook, my code, my research. That I didn't inherit this from anyone, that I created it myself. I built this company's entire technological foundation while you were out schmoozing investors and sleeping with your mistress. I filed the patents in my name, all 423 of them, that I hold the exclusive rights to the core technology that your entire company is built on. My blood turned to ice as I stared at her, my mind reeling. The automation systems were the foundation of Sterling Automation. They were the reason we had beaten every competitor, the reason I had become the dominant force in industrial automation, if it belonged to her. That's impossible, I said. I have the paperwork. I bought the designs from the engineering team. I have the signatures. I have. You bought a shell, Charlotte said calmly. I knew the risks of selling my life's work to a corporation. I structured the patents so that they could only be transferred with my explicit written consent. You never got my consent. You never even asked. You assumed I was just a simple engineer who didn't understand business. You were wrong. She stood up. Her posture was different now, confident, commanding. The woman I had dismissed as a simple engineer suddenly seemed like the genius she should have been. And that's not all, Julian, she continued, her voice growing colder. I know about Penelope, that I've known for 22 years. I knew she was a spy for Sterling's rival, Ashford Industries. I've been documenting her activities, her communications, her theft of company secrets. I have enough evidence to put her in prison for the rest of her life. And I have enough evidence to put you in prison for corporate espionage, because you are the one who gave her access to the classified files. You are the one who handed her the keys to the kingdom. I stumbled backward. My heart was pounding. My mind was racing. She had known. She had known everything, and she had been waiting. She had been patient. She had been planning. I have the divorce papers here, she said, pulling a thick folder from her bag. I've already had my lawyers draft them. You will receive no settlement. You will receive no alimony. You will vacate this penthouse by midnight tonight, and you will never contact me again. If you try to fight me, I will revoke your license to use my patents. Without them, your company is worth exactly zero, that the investors will abandon you. The board will fire you. You'll be left with nothing but lawsuits, criminal investigations, and bankruptcy. And I will personally ensure that you and Penelope spend the rest of your lives in federal prison. I grabbed the papers, and my hands were trembling. Did I scan them, searching for a loophole, a mistake, anything, but the documents were ironclad. They were written by the best intellectual property lawyers in the country. Charlotte, please, I said, my voice cracking. This is insane, that I didn't know you were the inventor, that I didn't know Penelope was a spy, that I made a mistake, I was a fool. Please, give me another chance, I'll make it up to you, that I'll be a better husband, She cut me off with a dismissive wave. You had 32 years to be a better husband, Julian, 32 years to see me, to appreciate me, to love me. You chose to ignore me. You chose to belittle me. You chose to treat me like a servant. And now you get to live with the consequences of those choices. I don't need your apologies. I don't need your love. I don't need anything from you, that I'm free and you are destroyed. She walked to the door. She didn't look back. You have until midnight, Julian. And if you're not gone by then, my lawyers will have you escorted out in handcuffs. The door closed behind her. I stood in the penthouse that I had built, feeling the walls closing in around me. I had lost everything. My wife, my empire, my future. All of it gone in an instant. The weeks that followed were a descent into hell. The press had a field day. Industrial automation billionaire loses everything. Julian Sterling's humiliation. Charlotte Hart reveals secret invention. My reputation was shredded, and why friends abandoned me. Penelope Ashford, my beloved mistress, the woman I had destroyed my marriage for, was arrested for corporate espionage. She was convicted and sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. She had been using me the entire time, that I had been a fool. The investors panicked. The board called an emergency meeting without the automation patents. My company was a shell. The valuation plummeted from $600 billion to zero in a matter of weeks. The lawsuits started piling up. From shareholders, from business partners, from everyone I had ever wronged, the FBI launched an investigation. I spent my life savings on legal fees, but it wasn't enough that I declared bankruptcy. I lost everything. I moved into a tiny studio apartment in a rundown part of Fort Worth. I couldn't afford my old lifestyle, couldn't even afford a card. I started looking for work, but no one would hire me. My reputation was destroyed, that I was a pariah, a laughingstock. Months passed. I was forced to take a job as a janitor at Sterling Automation's new headquarters, the very company I had founded, now owned by my ex-wife. I scrubbed toilets, mopped floors, emptied trash cans. I looked in the mirror every morning and saw a hollow shell of a man, a shadow of my former self. But the worst part was seeing Charlotte. She was everywhere, on magazine covers, on television, on billboards. She had taken over my company and transformed it into a global powerhouse. She had started a foundation, a scholarship program, a global STEM education initiative. She was using her fortune to build a better future. She had won the National Medal of Technology and a host of other awards, a testament to her genius. She was happy, radiant, thriving. She had everything I had thrown away. One night, I was mopping the floor of the executive conference room when I saw her reflection in the glass wall. She was standing in the doorway, watching me. Her expression was unreadable. "Julian," she said, "I heard you were working here. I wanted to see it for myself." I dropped the mop. I fell to my knees. The tears started streaming down my face. "Charlotte," I sobbed. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was a fool. That I was arrogant. I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me. Please, I'm begging you. Give me another chance. I'll do anything. That I'll work for free. I'll be a janitor for the rest of my life. Just please, let me be near you. Let me try to make it right." She looked down at me. Her expression was cold, distant. But for just a moment, I saw a flicker of something. Pain? Regret? It didn't matter. She shook her head. "Julian," she said, "you had 32 years to make it right, 32 years to see me, to appreciate me, to love me. You chose cruelty, you chose arrogance, you chose to treat me like I was nothing. And now you're nothing. You don't get to come back and beg for crumbs. You don't get to use my success as a way to assuage your guilt. You made your bed, now lie in it." She turned to leave. I crawled after her, grabbing at her ankles. "Please, Charlotte, please. I'll do anything. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I love you. I always loved you." I was just too stupid to realize it. She stopped. She looked down at me one last time. Her eyes were filled with a cold, final emptiness. "You never loved me, Julian," she said. "You loved what I could do for you. You loved my talent, my intelligence, my connections, but you never saw me. Not once. Not in 32 years. And you never will. I don't need your apologies. I don't need your love. I have everything I need. I have myself, I have my work, but I have my family, and you have nothing but regret. Goodbye, Julian." She walked away. I stayed on the floor, sobbing, as her footsteps echoed down the hallway. I had lost everything. MY company, MY money, MY reputation, MY dignity. And the only woman who had ever truly loved me. The years passed. I remained a janitor, stuck in a dead-end life. I never recovered. I never remarried. I spent my nights replaying every moment of my marriage, every cruel word, every dismissive glance. I thought about Charlotte's smile, her kindness, her unwavering loyalty, and I realized that I had been the villain all along, that I had been given the greatest gift in the world, and I had thrown it away. One day, I was cleaning a research lab when I saw a familiar face on the television mounted in the corner. It was Charlotte, being interviewed about her latest breakthrough, a revolutionary new AI-driven automation system that was transforming manufacturing worldwide. She was using my former company to change the world. She was happy. She had found her purpose. And I was scrubbing a chemical spill off the floor. I sank to my knees, sobbing. The mop clattered to the ground. I felt the weight of my mistakes crushing me. I had been such a fool, such an arrogant, entitled fool, and there was no going back. I looked up at the screen, at Charlotte's face, and I whispered, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." But she couldn't hear me, and even if she could, it wouldn't have mattered, because I had destroyed everything we could have had. I had destroyed myself. One evening, I was sitting on a bench outside the headquarters, eating a cheap sandwich, when I saw her walking past. She was with her family, her husband, her children, her colleagues. She was laughing at something her daughter had said. She was radiant, happy, free. She didn't notice me. She walked right past, her laughter echoing in the evening air. I wanted to call out to her. I wanted to beg one more time, but I couldn't. I had no right. I had given up that right when I threw her away. I watched her walk away, her silhouette disappearing into the twilight. I sat on the bench, alone, the tears streaming down my face. I had lost everything: MY company, MY money, MY reputation, MY dignity, and the only woman who had ever truly loved me. I closed my eyes. The cold was settling into my bones. I felt the darkness closing in, a permanent chill that would never leave. I was dying. I could feel it. And in that final moment, I realized that the greatest tragedy wasn't losing my empire, that IT wasn't losing my money, that IT wasn't even losing my reputation. The greatest tragedy was losing the one person who had ever truly seen me, and not realizing it until it was far too late. I whispered her name, Charlotte. But the only answer was the wind.